Hey everybody, Scott Luton with Supply Chain Now. I am here with my friend Dawn Andre with JAGGAER. Dawn, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great to see you here today at the Gartner Supply Chain Symposium and Expo 2024. Rock and roll the place to be in global supply chain this week at least. So, got a couple questions for you, and we're going to start with talking talent, because it's still a big challenge for so many organizations out there. And the challenge is being compounded in many ways by how technology continues to evolve, right? AI. Raise your hand if you've had, 2,000 conversations related to AI this week, which is cool, right? We all have. And there's so much to talk about, but one point I think when it comes to talent is how AI is changing the game, allowing many teams to be much more strategic, right? And empowering the human element, the beautiful human element, to find new, powerful, and valuable ways to spend their time, resources, and energy. So how do you see, with all of that, the current supply chain talent gaps? What are some of your thoughts there?
Well, I think that the gap continues to grow at a rate that's really significant. And it's not just, the skill sets. It's being able to teach and train your staff and your talent at the rapid pace that the markets are changing.
Right.
And the tremendous amount of pressure that our supply chain talent pool is under continues to grow. You use the word compound. You think of the normal supply chain metrics and objectives that they're trying to achieve. That goes without saying. We want on-time service, we want lower costs, we want. Layer on top of that things like ESG, supply chain resilience, disruptions in the supply chain, the whole macroeconomic, political environment, geographies that are at unrest. All of this is playing a role in putting pressures on the supply chain.
Right.
There's industry mandates, there's regulatory requirements now that are coming down. So the change is at an order of magnitude that in my 30 years of business, I have not seen this before.
Wow.
So how do we close that gap and leverage the very talented supply chain team members that we have more effectively?
Right.
And that is where AI really comes in.
Well said. Well said. And a tremendous opportunity.
Right.
You're right to take this compounding pressure off the team.
Right.
Let's automate some of the mundane tasks that no one goes to work to do.
Totally.
Right? And make work more creative, more fulfilling, and equally as important, make the organizations much more successful.
Well, I think that's really important from the talent pool perspective. The use of technology really is an enabler. It's going to augment the organization's ability to be effective. And I think that will accelerate the closure of that gap that we talked about. So to your point, repetitive tasks, manual tasks, all of these things are low value, high volume on the books for a supply chain executive. So how can we make the machines do that heavy lifting process and reserve the time and effort of our talent pool to be focused on strategic objectives and how to deliver new and creative ways to solve problems in the marketplace? It's going to free them up, and it's going to give them the opportunity to grow. And I think that that's a really exciting part of how AI can augment the supply chain employees' tasks and their daily work schedule. It's going to make it a lot more fun, I think.
Right. You talked about letting tech do the tech stuff, right?
Yeah.
And unleashing the human factor. And that, really, even the most savvy business leader, you just mentioned, you've been in business for 30 years and you're seeing some of these things at a certain place for the first time. That's the uniqueness of this environment.
And at a speed, it's converging. All of these initiatives converge and put a pressure on the talent pool that requires us to rethink how we're approaching processes, training. We cannot apply the same strategies that we did pre-COVID to get the outcomes that we're expected to right now.
Yeah, well said.
So how do we rethink that? How do we do our daily responsibilities in a new and different way to close that gap?
So let's move into this next question.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got some answers to that rhetorical question you threw out there. So how do you see Gen AI, generative AI in particular, transforming supply chain and procurement. And what are some of the things you are doing at JAGGER to do just that?
Well, I think with every technological advancement in innovation, we have some exciting frontiers to explore.
Yep.
And Gen AI is certainly one that's capturing every headline on every news, and certainly is really popular today at the conference. So you're going to hear a lot about that. But I think it's the all-encompassing use of AI that's really exciting, because there's a tool for every job, and there's a different type of AI and machine learning for different problems to apply. So at JAGGER, for example, focusing on the talent component of it, we have a solution that we've been embedding for 4 years now. We've had a solution that will guide a user through a process. So I mentioned before, we can't train these users the way that we used to. We don't have the ability to pull them off and send them to class for weeks. So we focused on taking that experience and putting it in the application. So a new user or an existing user who might have a new process that they're implementing corporately can have access to guides, training videos, capabilities within the app at that point in time where it matters.
Okay.
And it makes a difference. Another area is...
So really quick, if I can.
Yeah.
So right then when they need it, what they need, and how they need.
Hey, that's new. I can click on a video.
Okay.
Or I can read a guide that tells me why this is important or why this has changed. All right, I don't have to fly somewhere to go to a meeting or log on to a Zoom event. It's right there for me at the time when it means something.
Yeah.
The next thing that we implemented was an assist chatbot. So you're all familiar with them. What's important about the assist chatbot that we use is we actually use natural language processing. So a user can just ask a question and it will reply back. It also will make recommendations on the next step.
Yeah.
Like it'll take you to a purchase requisition if that's what you're trying to figure out how to do. And then you can activate a guide to walk you through step by step how to create one if it's your first time.
Saving time.
Saving time.
Making the day easier. Not bogging users down with lots of information they don't need.
Right.
Right. Making the day easier. Right?
Making it easier and making it very prescriptive to the task at hand.
Okay.
One other area that's really exciting that we've delivered is a recommendation engine. Not only for user level supply chain professionals, but also at the executive level. So think about your chief procurement officer. They have responsibilities to their leadership in supply chain, the CFO, the COO, across the board. They're monitoring huge budgets and procurement across multiple organizations geographically dispersed. How can they keep control over all of that data? Synthesize that data in a meaningful way, deliver insights where they can actually direct their company. It's like a battleship, only we have to move like it's a, like it's a jet ski, right? So how do we give them the insights, the information, the flexibility to be able to see what's going on in all of those areas?
Only via technology.
Only via technology, and to have the technology say, hey, this group over here is not performing at your standard. Here are 5 steps that you can consider to improve that. So not just reporting the news, but actually giving them the actions that they can take to continuously improve their outcomes, which is really the environment that we're in right now. It's so dynamic. To have that ability synthesized down is pretty powerful.
It's like a technology triage.
Yeah.
Did I say that word right? Triage? Triage. That's
Exactly.
a technology triage. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So all of what you're sharing, I don't want to move on before you're ready.
Yeah.
Did you have one more point you want to throw in?
Yeah, I was
Please.
just going to mention the reason why companies can perform like this is because you have to have the data available to you. But the data in itself can be overwhelming if you don't have the analytics, the predictive capabilities, and the AI functions over top of that. That is the basis for Gen AI to come out of that. If you don't have the data and information and the scenarios available, you can't train the models effectively.
Yeah. So a lot of what you're sharing here, and even you stole my thunder early on in your first response about rethinking supply chain, right?
Yeah.
Because that is the theme here at Gartner Supply Chain Symposium 2024. So when you think about that phrase, right, that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different folks. But if you had to pick one element to how we're rethinking supply chain here in 2024, perhaps one that isn't getting nearly as much attention as some of these technologies we're talking about, what would that be, Dawn?
I would say, as much as the hype is around AI, we need to be using it more and experimenting it more. In order to be able to close this growing gap, we still have companies who are saying, only a small percentage of their supply chain is using AI today.
Right.
So my recommendation is really invest. Try it out, sandbox it. We have to learn, and we have to figure out how it's going to work effectively within your unique company's needs.
Yeah. Well said, Don. Yeah, would you agree with this?
Yeah.
I was talking with Mike Griswold from Gartner not too long ago. Mike, you know Mike?
Yeah, I do.
One of a kind.
Who
tell
doesn't,
you what. Yeah.
right?
And he really crystallized some of the Gartner research that's out there, where there's a lot of organizations that unfortunately are still viewing AI as like a future technology. It's nice to have. Maybe we'll think about bringing it into. While other organizations for months, if not already years, are already powerfully leveraging real AI to move the organization forward and to create a bigger gap between those that are and those that aren't. Any comments there?
Well, it's going to be a competitive advantage. There's no question. And we see that, at JAGGAER, we started investing in AI a decade ago. We've been 3 years running, recognized by Gartner for a leadership position in that space. And I can tell you that we have customers who have joined that journey with us, invested along the way, and they are the brand leaders in the marketplace. You can see how they're using that to be more competitive and to take an advantage in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So I'm with Mike. I want to see more companies see this as a critical path to their success and not just a cool piece of technology.
Love that. Lean into the moment, the opportunity for sure. All right. So as we wrap here, Dawn. Man, we've covered a lot of ground already. If you had a captive audience, okay, let's play a little hypothetical here.
Yeah.
You got the world's supply chain community in a captive audience, and you had this opportunity to challenge our community with a piece of advice or throwing the gauntlet down on something. What would that be, Dawn?
I'm going to say, my comment earlier about sports, I'm going to say, don't be on your heels. You'll be playing defense, lean forward, be on the balls of your feet, invest in AI, look through a new lens at problems that we're facing in the supply chain, because what we did 10 years ago isn't going to solve the problems going forward.
Wow. Well said. Dawn Andre with JAGGAER, really good stuff here today. Before we let you go, how can folks connect with you and the team in case they want to lean into some of these opportunities you're talking about?
Yeah, if you're here at the Gartner conference, we've got a booth set up. You can go also to jagger.com and learn more from there. Reach out to us there, or you can reach to me on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Maybe catch a game up in D.C. and connect over
Fantastic.
adult beverages and basketball.
There you go.
But regardless, big thanks, Dawn Andre with JAGGAER. Thanks so much for being here today. And folks, stay tuned for a lot more key takeaways and insights from the Gartner Supply Chain Symposium 2024. Thanks, everybody.